submitted. I don't know if have we been taking motions on the approval?
If we don't have to make any changes, it just goes as
Right.
submitted.
Okay. Next on the agenda are the public hearings. Kevin, would you like to read?
Application 1701 of Robert Biles.
Billy Kabashi.
Kabaski, you know this name, huh?
Kabashi.
Billy Kabaski. Agent 22 GC, owner for a special exception pursuant to Article 10, Section H of the Town of Simsbury zoning regulations for a liquor permit at the restaurant on the property located at 836 Hot Meadow Street, Assessors Map H09, Block 227, Lot 001A plus and 1B, Zones SC3 and SC4.
Hey, Mike, is there any?
Yeah, that's myself.
Yep.
I'm here to get my liquor permit. I came in last month to have the town sign off on the state permit, to find out that there was a special exceptions permit that needed to precede that. So I put in the notice last month, signs went up, I have my affidavit, but the sign's been posted. And to move forward, because the bar is being delivered tomorrow. So,
Can you remind me where the location of the property is?
we're behind the old Andy's Market, facing the amphitheater.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we actually need to cut the signed affidavit for our files, so let's submit that. Thank you.
Records show that a signed affidavit has been given to town staff. Is there, public hearing needs to be opened by tonight, or by the 12th. Is there any reason why we couldn't open it before then?
You actually have it scheduled this evening?
For tonight, yeah.
Or tonight, Mr. Chairman?
Okay. It says here on my notes that must be open by our next meeting.
Public hearing is for sale of alcohol, open hearing, testimony.
Okay. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak to this application? Hearing none. Should we close the public hearing?
Just from a background perspective, Mr. Chairman, we did receive an application for the sale of alcoholic beverages, both internal and external to the facility, associated with the proposed expansion of on Iron House Boulevard. By regulation, it required a special exception. That is the purpose of the hearing tonight. You do in your packet have a report authored by Mike Glidden with a recommended motion. We did look at the previous approval for the use with regards to the outdoor space and landscaping, and that recommended motion mirrors that original approval. But the final buffering and landscaping that separates I'll say the public space, being the parking lot, from the private space of dining, does have a landscape vernacular that acts as a buffer or a hedgerow between that public and private space.
So before we close it, can you just describe that? I mean, this is very tiny.
Yes. We've expanded into the adjacent two units, and we're going to have a bar immediately adjacent to us. And the next unit over will continue our dining room and have restroom facilities. In front of the existing location will be an outdoor patio.
And servers will bring it out. It's not an outdoor, you only have one bar.
An outdoor bar.
And have you had a liquor license previously ever?
Yeah, I had one of my Farmington location has a liquor permit.
It's a little easier to see. And there is a So what is the barricade for the public? Is there something on the south side?
There's going to be,
Yeah, what's over here?
there's going to be a series of tall planters. I was working with Jamie, they recommended something like 4-foot planters, and then whatever's growing up in there would act as an additional buffer to this in the parking lot right here.
But right now, there's nothing here, right? This is just parking and then a curb.
Well, this is the engineered plans. Our actual drawings did show.
This one?
Yes, that one right there does show the planter boxes.
It's easier to see.
Yeah, right there.
Okay, so, I mean, aren't, by the state regs, aren't they required to have the outdoor seating area has to be surrounded by fence blocking something?
Yeah.
No, the state regs don't want to require fencing.
No, it's something kind of separation.
Any kind of separation, and it is, they leave that on approval.
Mr. Chairman, historically, the state liquor control did require a physical barrier between the space dedicated to the sale of alcohol and any public space not dedicated to the sale of alcohol. That provision has been removed.
It's wide open?
It is up to the discretion of state liquor control.
No, they
Redstone has open space, exactly.
No, they changed it, because when they came in originally, they didn't.
In working with...
They didn't have that out there originally anyway.
In working with the owner, it's his intent from a public safety perspective and an operator's perspective to have a landscape barrier between those two settings. The discussion is how to do that underneath, and the suggestion that staff had made is to have the ability to move some of the hardscape, to do them in planter boxes that are substantial in nature so the public can't push them out of the way, but in the winter, they could be tucked under the building and away from that site versus being a permanent fixture. Again, there has been discussions that if he is successful there, that he would potentially like to move under the canopy where there is additional parking spaces to have all-weather dining space. So to build a physical barrier between those parking spaces and his proposed space would potentially only need to be removed, and if he's more successful there, to expand under that, not climate control, but weather control space. Those portable temporary planters would be able to shift into, 2 parking spaces and then could get bigger and then 3 parking spaces. And it could always be used as a barrier.
Is that additional, what you're just talking about, as you're facing the building to the left?
To the left,
Yeah.
yes.
And that doesn't-
This could all
yes,
expand
yeah.
and then...
Violate any parking ratio requirements or other tenant
There's
parking requirements?
substantial parking at this facility, given the tenant mix. Again, right now you have a liquor store, you have Dunkin' Donuts, and for all intents and purposes, other than People's Choice, the rest of the building is vacant and in a, we'll say, a state of flux right now.
What did you think of the motion?
Well, we're not ready for that yet. At this point, we're just ready to close the public hearing. Right, there was no more.
Any comments again? Okay, so I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion. I move that we close the public hearing for application 1701.
I'll second that.
We'd like to amend the agenda to take action on this.
Mr. Chairman, you have a motion and a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to amend the agenda so we could take action on application 1701, or should we just?
Mike, I'll second. Donna seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will act on this tonight, having our discussion publicly, based on what staff has recommended. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Very helpful for that.
I'd like to move the approval of application 1701, request of, geez, I remember his name again, Robert Bilikowski, for a special exception subject to the following conditions. One, for purposes of liquor license, the premise is defined as interior dining space and outdoor patio area, which are illustrated on the floor plan titled People's Choice, prepared by EDM, revision date 10/10/2016, Exhibit 3 and 4. And 2, a final landscape plan with plant material for the area surrounding the outdoor dining shall be submitted to the zoning commission to be reviewed by staff. The Director of Planning and Community Development to determine consistency with Simsbury's design guidelines.
I'll second that.
Who's second?
Derek. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck putting in the new bar.
Moving on, another public hearing tonight, application 1702. Acting Secretary.
Application 1702, Barbara Foley, agent, Robert Petroselli, owner, for a special exception pursuant to Article 10, Section H of the Town of Simsbury zoning regulations for a temporary liquor permit for a one-day event on the property located at 79 Hartford Road, Assessors Map G15, Block 110, Lot 12, Zone R4.
Do you want me to? We have been having funds run for the roses. This will be our 9th annual event to raise money for pancreatic cancer research, awareness, and patient aid, joint patient aid. I'm proud to report that we have raised over $1.5 million in the 9 years, with pretty much an all-volunteer only, and the base of our fundraising is at Folly Farm on Kentucky Derby Day.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak to this application? I have a question for staff. Did I see something in prior minutes about the application fee being approved?
Correct. The Board of Selectmen did vote to waive the
They did.
application.
Great.
Excellent.
Glad to hear that.
Did you go to the meeting on Monday?
Pardon me?
Did you go to the Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday?
No.
No. That's why they waived your fee.
The second aspect is we do need the signed affidavit.
Okay.
And we're working, we just found out about that, I guess. Jim Eater is helping, he does the zoning, he's a volunteer and board member, and he said there is a new paper required, and I assume it's the affidavit, and he is going to be on that tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman, without that affidavit, it would be our recommendation you continue, keep the hearing open to allow that to come in. Because if you close the hearing, technically the staff can't, the commission can't receive that.
And we can't make a conditional motion. Right.
We would recommend.
Yep.
You do meet 2 weeks from today.
Okay. So it come back with the affidavit in hand?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend that we hold the public hearing open on this application. We don't need to make a move, we don't need to move that to keep it open. It just remains open. James?
Yeah, just for clarity, Mr. Chairman, motion to close, you can either accept the motion to continue. If there was no motion to close, the hearing would be continued. I would just state that, and correct me if I misinterpret your intentions, that the intent of the commission is to continue the hearing to the March 20th 2017 regularly scheduled meeting at the Town Hall, which begins at 7 p.m.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll see you March 20th. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Old business, application 1701, 1702, have been addressed. Application 1703. I'll take this one, Kevin. 1703 of LADA PC Land Planners Agent, Simsbury Cemetery Association, Inc., owner for a site plan approval for the installation of a columbarium wall and pavilion on the property located at Plank Hill Road, Assessor's Map G09, Block 203, Lot 44, spanning between Library Lane and Plank Hill Road, behind and adjacent to the property located at 755 Hop Meadow Street, Zone R40.
Mr. Chairman, we are in receipt of correspondence from the applicant requesting that you table this agenda item this evening. They are still working on revisions that need to be submitted to the town.
Table that application.
Do we have to make a motion or no?
It would be
Yeah,
appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table application 1703 until our March 20th
Yep.
meeting at 7 o'clock.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. New business.
Mr. Chairman, just under new business, I would like to mention we do have one new application from the Simsbury Fire Department associated with improvements at Rotary Park. This was received on March 3rd, but it was not signed by the first selectman until late Friday. So it didn't appear on your agenda, but we do have that. So under new business, you would have item A, item D, and an item C.
Where's, I do not have to see. No, I didn't know if it was double-sided.
Oh, there's a blank page at the back.
And this was or was not posted to the,
It was online.
it was online?
Harry did get it
Part of the
online?
Dropbox?
Yep, I was able to see the photos.
So fire truck.
Yeah, there's good.
And that was signed late Friday.
Okay, so, but we're not to,
We're not there yet.
yeah, we're not there yet, on that, right? And then it looks like, let's see, 1704. Two-year extension for the portable classroom building. Have you spoken with the gentleman over here?
The St. Mary's has approached our office. They're looking for an extension to the previous approval for the modular classrooms.
Yeah.
They're developing plans for the renovation to the campus, but their approval actually expires this year, so they're looking to extend it in order to accommodate construction. They, however, did not put up the informational sign that's required 10 days prior to the hearing in the center code, so they're doing that, and they will be on your agenda for discussion at the next meeting
Okay.
on the 20th.
So do we just have to say that we've received it?
You've
or no?
received it by statute.
Would be appropriate to table.
Mr. Chairman, regarding application 1704, Bill Hayden, I recommend that we table this application until our meeting on March 20th at 7 p.m.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Jackie, second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then an application I think we've seen before, application 1705 of Ernie Maggi, Stop and Shop Agent, Simsbury Commons, for a site plan amendment for the replacement of a temporary greenhouse on the property at 498 Bushy Hill Road. So we received that today.
Yeah, I have one more slip that I had to have the manager of the Commons. Not sure if I should give this to you. This is one of the manager's slips.
That would be Eden's.
Yes.
Yours.
Pardon me?
Floor is yours.
What's that?
The floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess we've had this, I just was newly assigned to the Simsbury Stop and Shop this last May. So this was already in the works. Evidently, in years past, it was a 3-year application, and then last year they said it was just a 1-year application. The greenhouse is 22 by 48, and it's been up, I believe it's over 10 years now. And last year was the first time we actually extended it. We actually tried to do something different. We had sold mums out of it and things like that, tried to get a fall look. Didn't do as well as we expected. So this year would strictly be from 4/15, we're looking at April 15th to July 1st, 7 months.
Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they apply last year for spring through like October of last year?
Yes.
And that's what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's what
It
I'm
didn't
referring
really
to.
do as well,
Yeah, it
so
didn't
this is
pan out.
just
Yeah.
for the spring, basically?
Yes.
And improvements we requested.
Yes, we did.
Yes, they did.
The lines.
Yep.
Yes.
And so I think that's why we had requested a 1-year, because they wanted to expand either the timing, or there was also something to do with a crosswalk from the plane parking
Correct.
area
Yes.
to the, and that was all done and accommodated.
Yes.
So, are you looking for a 3-year?
We'd like to do a 3-year in the future when we can. I'm not sure if it's okay this year or next year maybe, but.
I can't remember, are there any kind of barriers for the cars?
Yes, sir, there's barriers, there's actually like a cement barrier with the trees and bushes there, and then there's actually the car access, because that was like a parking lot extension.
Right.
But we put sawhorses there on both sides, and that's why we put the crosswalk evidently, because this way the cars can't just drive in there.
So the place that cars could is barricaded by sawhorses?
Sawhorses, yes, and we actually, beginning of the season, we end up having pallets of products and stuff like that, so try to create that outdoor atmosphere of a local.
Yeah, very walkable once you're there.
Yeah,
Yeah, the northern entrance has all the pallets, and the sawhorses are on the southern entrance of that parking lot.
Yeah, I think it's a nice feature, and I haven't heard of any issues in the past. Jamie, does the fact that the affidavit was given tonight change in any way our thought process on actionable items here tonight?
The only thing we did, because we did not have that, we did not prepare staff comments for you this evening. Pulling up the meeting minutes from last year to look at the conditions of approval on that. If you can give us a minute, we can.
I mean, honestly, I think it's still early enough where we could table it if you prefer to look.
Tabling it would also be perfectly acceptable. We do meet 2 weeks from now,
Right.
and we could prepare a motion for you.
We're supposed to get
And
some
that would
snow.
be with them having plenty of time for April 15th.
I think so.
And we're trying to research why we didn't give them a 3-year last time, or what are we
What are
What are we waiting on?
Well, like you said.
They've been
last
doing
time-
this for ages.
Right. Last time, we didn't do it because they were doing the longer time.
Yeah, because they were stepping into fall, and we asked them to make changes to, you know, to the parking lot
Yeah.
for safety purposes, but
Yeah, I hear what Mike's saying. I don't know if it's, well, let's let Jamie just review.
I'm almost there.
Yeah.
keep it off our agenda and let this man go about his business.
Yes, yeah, there's no.
My goal
I'll let
personally,
Jamie do that.
but
Mike, does the application, it doesn't actually specify any of the timeframes in
Right.
here. It just,
Well, that would be part of
It would be
it.
nice to have that in writing for the commission to act on, I will say.
We can make that conditional then of our approval.
I'd table it for him to be able to get a 3-year, for sure. If that's the goal.
2 or 3 years.
2 or, yeah,
So I think-
anything greater than 1.
You should have something, a specific request from the applicant on what he's looking for the commission to act on. Rather than leaving it open-ended.
It would be from a very conservative approach. If the application was modified to solidify the dates they're asking for with regards to operation, it's their application that has specific dates associated with it. If you make that motion to approve that application and there's an enforcement issue, it's not just a condition of the approval that you change the date, it's the actual application that they signed that requested those dates. So if they're selling mums in October, it's a clear violation of their application. It's not a violation of a condition, it's actually a self-imposed condition.
They're actually removing the greenhouse after in July.
Okay.
Last year, we extended it, obviously, because we paid for it, and we had the application. but
I mean, from
this
my
year,
perspective, a hard cutoff of mid-July, I would, if you're amending your application, I would say August 1, because there's always potentially something that occurs in July, and we wouldn't have, I wouldn't want staff to be out there 2 days after it was supposed to be removed because a contractor's piece of equipment. I mean, the goal is it's not a full season Memorial Day to Labor Day anymore. It's kind of, just before Memorial Day, late April, into midsummer.
Yeah, I'm inclined to get a more specific request in terms of dates. Along the lines of what Mike was saying, I'm also inclined to have a meaningful discussion about extending this out to 3 years, just to, as you said, Mike, let them go about their business. It's something that's been successful for many years. I think last year with the change, that caused us to review it again this year, but if you can give us specifics
Yeah,
on
put
dates
dates in.
for each of the following next 3 years, I think we could probably come to some conclusion at our next meeting on March 20th.
And on those dates, do you want specific as far as when it's going to be installed and when it's going to be taken down, so there's no...
Yeah.
Because our company, obviously, once we have a clear date of saying we want it down, the company that we deal with is very good, and we wouldn't put anything out there anyhow. We're very specific on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, you give yourself a couple days,
Yeah,
5
like
days.
Jamie was saying,
buffer.
if you do
Suggested.
April 1 to August 1, so that you have time for setup and takedown,
And
that
it's
covers
not-
you.
I don't think anybody's going to be there the next day saying, hey, this needs, but...
Yeah, trust me, we're
Yeah.
very specific on that.
Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah.
if somebody tells us to get something done, it'll get done. Unfortunate is the opening time that always varies. Nothing that we can do as far as once we pick a date, but it's always about the growers. Right now, I just got one deal today that, our growers may not be able to get the product that we need for the opening anyhow, right away, so it's because...
But it could be earlier some other year.
Yeah, exactly, but we'll make sure that we give it to the proper dates that you're looking for.
Yeah, give yourself, enough cushion so that if, there is a timing issue on the grower side, that you still have...
Okay.
And the window is weeks, it's not months, right?
No,
I mean,
it's literally, I'm gonna stick with 4-1 and 7-1, 7-7 maybe if that.
That's fine.
Because July, these sales just drop. People are usually done with that type of stuff.
There's nobody in town anymore.
Right, just because I'm new at this, I'm not sure. So on that, do I fill out a new application? How do I, I'm not
You
sure.
can do it, you can revise it in letter form,
Okay.
and we'll just attach that to the...
Should I get it notarized or something like that, or do you
You
know?
do not need it notarized.
So just, okay, because I have an actual email from my company saying the actual dates that we're opening it, so I wasn't sure.
Does it say 3 years?
Oh, no, I'm just talking about.
Just for this
the
year.
Actual
Just for
dates
this
this
year.
year.
Okay.
Yeah. so-
Again, as the chairman stated, what they would be looking for is clear, defined parameters from a start date and an end date, and the start date and the end date includes the removal of any structures that have been put up, whether they're tables,
Sawhorses or...
Really clean,
sawhorses,
like, no one's
back
there.
the parking lot on,
Yep.
it's a parking lot on March 28th,
And it's a
it's something else on
greenhouse
April 1st.
4-1,
And
It's a parking
on
lot again.
July, or end of June, it's still a stand, and on July 1, it's back to parking lot.
You can call it staff for help.
He should ask for 3 years.
Yeah.
You should ask for
Yeah.
3 years. And
Make sure it's clear that you're asking
For each of the 3 years. Okay, so I can
It's
type
part of the
something out through my company letterhead or whatever. and just
Yeah.
Mike, I'll be visiting you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
So we need a table.
Yeah, I mean, is it official? Yeah, so I'd like to hear a motion to table this
I'll make a motion
application.
to table application 1705 for Stop and Shop agent until our next meeting, March 20th at 7 PM here.
I'll second that.
One second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
The next one is the Rotary Park.
Oh. Which is,
1706.
So the Rotary Park would be application 17-06.
gave that to me.
Do we need a motion to amend to include
You would
this?
need a motion to amend your agenda to add that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we amend our agenda for receipt of new applications to include application 1706 of the town of Simsbury.
I'll second that.
Donna, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a actually, application?
Mr. Chairman, just for simplicity, this application did require a subsequent or simultaneous application to the Conservation Commission for inland wetlands. By state statute, you have to wait for a report from them before you can take action. They will be taking this matter up tomorrow.
Portion of the
Kevin
time.
is here this evening, took the time out of his schedule, so I'm not sure if he has a presentation or any of the commission members have any questions for him with regards to the application.
I'm on the Rotary membership, so do I have to recuse myself or anything like that?
If you feel you potentially have a conflict, you could recuse yourself.
I don't think it's a conflict.
I don't-
It's good for the town and it's for the kids.
It's from-
I'm not on the board.
Do you have
I'm just a
kids?
Rotary member.
You have kids?
I have kids, so I guess I could recuse myself for that too, right? No, I don't see my 17-year-old
It's not
on the
financial
fire apparatus
Yeah, right.
at Rotary Park.
It's great.
That's all.
But I think that we obviously need to table this application till our next meeting.
Is there anything you want to hear, though?
Well, I mean, it's up to Kevin.
Basically, all it is, you see the pictures of it.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you saw the colored pictures of it. We got black and white. Okay, good, they did send that. Excellent. We are still working on the graphics on the side. That's the only thing that we're working on right now. Just to make sure it's consistent with what we want to do. This is actually a program that we're going to do. It's part of our 75th anniversary. And in 2019 will be our 75th, and this is kind of the first step off to give something to the town, so we thought it was kind of a neat idea. The other thing is the fact that we are staying within the fence line of the park. We're not exceeding it. We have a spot picked out that actually Rec Department and the Rotary folks and everyone has helped us out, and where we're going to locate it, the labor is going to be done by fire company personnel, and we have some contractors that'll be doing the site work, and we've ordered the unit, so we're just waiting.
What we got, I'm not sure that it's to scale. Is it
Well-
just one piece?
It has to be built,
Okay.
and it's panels, it's posts that are sitting in the ground, and then floors installed with stairs, and then there's panels attached to the outside. So it's pretty consistent with the product that's down there.
Okay.
This company builds these things are for commercial playscapes.
That's great.
So it's not like something in the backyard of a house, you know? So hopefully the longevity on it will be what we have there now. I mean, the Rotary did a tremendous job in putting the systems in that they have. They're looking at trying to redo a lot of that, the town is, but funding is a little bit tight right now for that.
What's the base there, Kevin? Is that like a...
That is gonna be a rubber base. We had an option of putting wood chips down or rubber. We're trying to get funding right now for the rubber. And the product itself, the unit, the fire company is paying for. It's not tax money or anything, it's the fire company themselves. Through their fundraising, it's $21,000 just for this unit. It's an additional $10,000 for the rubber product underneath. And we haven't gotten that funding stream yet squared away. We're working on that now. But we felt that the rubber is far superior than wood chips. The wood chips are just not a real good.
You have to keep replacing.
Yeah, and the kids get the wood chips in their clothes, and, we have a couple
It gets thrown
grandkids that play,
everywhere.
and it gets thrown everywhere, yeah. So the rubber's the way to go, and plus it's safer. I mean, it's pretty amazing, the engineering that goes into this rubber base. They look and see where a child could fall from, and then that determines the thickness of the rubber and the resiliency. So it's kind of a neat system. Yes, sir.
Is it consistent or similar to the rubber that's already
Yes,
there?
yes.
Does it tie in? I can't tell from the...
Well, we're going to get it to closely tie into one section. The other side is kind of out of the way. It's where the trees are. There's 2 trees that are sitting there currently. That's kind of they're a little bit diseased. That we'll be taking out and putting the prop right there. And it'll kind of be a rounded rubber base underneath it. But there's a prescribed play area that's industry standards that we'll follow on the size of the pad. It's just not going to be 2 feet out from the prop. It'll be pretty far out. So if you do a Google map on it, you can see where there's 2 trees sitting out and be consistent with your map on there. So tomorrow is the commission, Wetlands Commission, so hopefully we'll be all set with that.
There, and there's that big skyscape there, and that big playscape there.
Do you guys have any other questions for Kevin?
Entrance where you park is right there.
So should we make a motion to table this
Sorry.
until our next meeting? I would be happy to make a motion to table application 1706 for Town of Simsbury Rotary Park until our next meeting, March 20th at 7 PM here.
Thank you, Jackie. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Come, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Quite a commotion on Hop Meadow, Kevin.
What's that?
Quite a commotion on my way here. There's like...
Up on the south end?
Yeah, probably. I don't know, all the trucks are heading...
Yeah, we were heading down the south end to a call, so.
Yeah.
We're right now, we're on the north end of town, so.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's a good night to have it.
exactly. Safe distance.
Okay. Moving on. 6, 7, General Commission Business. Discussion of new and ongoing projects. Zoning regulation revisions.
We continue to program them in when the time allows, given our workload right now and budget season. I hope to, in the next 2 weeks, have the ability to dedicate a little more time to these. I did have a urban design firm prepare maps for each one of the zone categories. So I showed you the individual plot plans. I had them take those drawings that we prepared in-house, prepare them to scale, and we now have a print that's 32 by 48 that shows you R15, R25, R30, R40, R80, the open space zones right through. We'll be working on the business zones because I think that will really expedite the discussion on where things are allowed and what the implications of the dimensional side of the regulations are. We have the first draft of that, and if anyone would like, I can bring that out quickly at the conclusion of the meeting so you can see where we are in the progress on that. We're also working on our tables associated with each zone, trying to take, in essence, what we have in draft as 30 pages necessary to articulate the different residential zones and the uses allowed in the residential zone, and trying to be a little more strategic in our approach on giving that information to the public, as well as you as commission members and us as staff who have to use the regulations, and getting that down to maybe a third or 10 pages, so that it's very clear and concise when someone comes to us or to you or just to the town in general and says, what can I do on my R40 lot? Versus Mike and I having to read, over 100 pages sometimes to answer that simple question. Because again, the contradictory nature of the regulations as the amendments occurred over time.
Did you come up with a new name for the R40 and 80 that you talked about last night?
We did, and Mike, we can pass this around. Right now, what we're looking at is having an R15, an R25, R30, and an R40. And those all correspond to the dimensional requirements of 15,000 square feet, 25,000 square feet, 30,000, and 40,000. You then had two open space districts. One was called the OSR40, and one was called the OSR80. Except neither one corresponded to 40,000 square feet or 80,000 square feet. So we have an OS1 and an OS2.
Great away.
And then with regards to your R80 and your R160, your R80 was not an 80,000 square foot area, it was a 2-acre area. So we've tried to simplify that by saying RR1 and RR2. So if you're in an RR1 zone, the requirement is 80,000 square feet. If you're in an RR2, the requirement is 160,000 square feet. But the confusion of calling a zone an R80 zone and then requiring something other than 80,000 square feet, hopefully will be eliminated. It's going to be an adjustment for the referral of, wait a minute, I was in the R80 zone. The dimensional aspects aren't changing, just the name, and the zoning map will reflect that. But we can, Mike, if you want, we can pass that.
You brought up the budget, Jamie, and, Glenn's been very helpful in this process, and, he's also spanned different boards here. I just want to make sure that when, it comes to budget any type of expense from the zoning side and planning side and whoever else Glenn might work with, that there's adequate support and split up appropriately to accommodate Glenn, finishing out his charge here. And frankly, I'm not by any means trying to push him out the door. I want him longer if we need him, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because although it will be a tight budget season, I think it's really important that we figure out these issues with not only our regs, but bring it through to fruition, and where we're all happy.
I had the ability in FY17's budget to slot additional funds for the zoning regulations. So we utilize existing funds that were available prior to my employment here. We have a supplement to that. So Glenn's working under the original allotment. We do have additional funds to retain his services to see this through fruition. We are working on a slightly different format than his normal format to try and condense and consolidate, because again, Glenn has done a yeoman's job with taking our regs and reorganizing them. Now our staff is looking at the functionality of that reorganization and how they need to utilize it day to day. And then we're putting it in, we'll say, the next generation, that we then want to take that generation and give it back to Glenn as the model to format the rest of the sections. And again, we're still working on, in essence, a two-phase approach to this. The first phase is the reorganization and reconsolidation of the regulations into one coherent document. And then from that document, also pointing out the need to revise the regulations to include a landscape section, a architectural review section. We talked with design review as well as my budget attempts to revisit the design guidelines, and we'll say review them and perhaps modernize them, and if we have any holes in those documents, to fill those holes from a regulatory perspective.
It's going to be so much more user-friendly, you know?
That's our goal.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
So the actual rewriting of certain aspects that we don't quite feel great about would be the second
Would be
phase?
phase two. And you may actually look at it as phase one, phase two, phase three. That phase two adds some quick components, landscape references and others. And phase three
It's more nitty-gritty.
is the real
like-
in-depth discussion on home-based businesses and home occupancies, accessory dwelling units,
Favorite.
agriculture.
Gonna need that in the 19 budget.
But
Well,
those are things, and
right.
home-based businesses, I've had a lot of success working with commissions of structuring that into class 1, class 2, class 3, where it's, class 1 home-based occupation where someone's working out a laptop in a spare bedroom. My understanding from the discussions with you are, you may not want to see those applications, and that you would be very comfortable if the permitting process was internal to the office. But as that use gets more intense, and perhaps you're bringing the public to the property, that those are the types of uses you want to see as a commission.
Yeah, if there's signage.
Oftentimes, it's also dictated by the IRS, is it not? Where, if you're going to allocate a portion of your home to your business, technically you have to.
Under the IRS code, because I am, that's part of my business.
Yeah.
10% of your house you now deduct as use. It's no longer proportionality.
Okay.
Because of the age of laptop and wireless, that you don't have to prove to the IRS that you have a sole fixed asset within your home that is dedicated to the use of the business, because you may be in that office at 8 a.m., but at 10 a.m. you're on your couch with your laptop, and at 12 a.m. you're at the kitchen table working on your laptop, and then back to your office to print a document out. So the rule of thumb, at least with my accountant, and the IRS code, is that you can utilize 10% of your residential structure.
Thanks for that.
So,
That could change as time goes
so,
on.
and the other thing I would be interested in is a lot of the code that would seem to be written for specific projects, like buildings dated 1960 and older. There's a lot of, it seems like a lot of regulations that were specifically entered for certain projects and that don't really make sense on their own. And so that's kind of a fine tuning too.
I want to say that's
They
a
make me crazy.
that's a phase 2 thing. We just had this issue in the office the other day where if you have a home that was built after 1851, you can do certain things to it. But if it was built prior to 1851, and in this instance, the home was built in 1850, you can't utilize sections of the regulations with regards to mixed use and businesses. And it happened, and it's in Terraville. So I'm not sure historically why the date 1851 was chosen, and what the difference is with regards to use of whether the structure is 1848 versus 1851. So again, those are things, though, Donna, that take a lot more exploratory.
Gotta go back to the
endeavors.
The meeting notes from 19.
But there it's where we really need to break down what type of uses are allowed under that provision. And is it really structure related with regards to date? does it matter in Terraville whether it was built in
Right.
1768 or
3 days ago.
1851 with regards to the use that's being proposed on a parcel of land? And you may find that with other safeguards in place in the regulations, that date can be removed.
Okay.
Can be removed.
Any other further discussion on that matter? I think we can move on. The WHOZ moratorium. Time flies. Discuss a little bit the potential modification.
With regards to the workforce housing moratorium, the question came up at the last meeting based on information that staff received on a prior approved project. The developer was looking to change the complexity of the mix of units from apartment to single-family and single-family detached. Working with town council, he did agree with staff's initial take that you would not be able to entertain that type of change under the moratorium. So staff has provided language that you have, and actually, if you want to pass out, you have the black and white version, might make a color version of that. But under the exemptions, in the middle of the paragraph, it states that projects which were previously approved by the commission may apply for appropriate permits to proceed with construction. And it's period right now. And that would prohibit that change from apartment complex to single family or single family to apartment. If you wanted to allow that to occur, staff is suggesting that you would add the language and/or may apply for site plan modifications as long as the proposed modifications to the previously approved site plan do not result in any additional residential units, and the proposed modifications would have been allowed under the workforce housing regulations subject to this moratorium. So if they had 88 units, they can't come in and apply for 89 units, but they can come in for 88 or less.
And they would still have to come.
They would, yeah, it is not an administrative process. They would have to come before the zoning commission for a site plan amendment to a previously approved site plan. And you would have full discretion under the workforce housing zone to approve or not approve their application. But this would give them the opportunity to apply. Without this language, they do not have the opportunity to apply.
And again, the reason for the language
They don't want to build new
is to accommodate them either reallocating the mix.
Reallocating the mix, yes.
Based on market demands. I mean, I guess it could be anything, right? They don't have to tell you why.
I want to build the apartments.
Could be anything. It could be the economy, it could be market mix locally, it could be economic conditions, it could be financing sources. A lot of banks don't like to finance multifamily homes, or one bank is very capable and comfortable financing single-family attached and detached, but they don't touch multifamily. And other banks touch multifamily, but they won't in their commercial portfolio couple that with single-family housing. So it could be finance, it could be economy, or it could just be product mix.
See, I can't help but think that this falls very similarly into a situation that Donna was just talking about, how we change things for one, project or another, and don't understand why. This is cohesive to me, I understand it, but it's also why I didn't think that we should have approved any applications, and it's neither here nor there, under the WHOZ, because there's only been one. And my feeling is I'm not in favor of adjusting this at all until we get some a little bit more understanding of where this WHOZ is going to be, if it even
Right,
is
so we
anything.
finish the map.
Yeah.
This one already, the one we're discussing has already been approved.
I understand that. But now he wants to change it. And we're under a moratorium right now, and my my suggestion is that he should, patiently wait unless he's under like some strict.
This is an application that only the commission, this is a text amendment that only the application can undertake. No one can apply to you to amend the workforce housing moratorium. So you as a commission would have to maybe vote or make the recommendation to have staff submit an application on your behalf to modify the regs.
I think the comments at the last meeting, I'm trying to remember, but I thought one of them had to do with the building season, and that's why we were considering this, as opposed to waiting until the moratorium. I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just saying that was part of the reasoning behind.
Okay, so I apologize, I wasn't here for that meeting.
No, that's okay.
No, but did the applicant come in and discuss?
No.
Okay, well, I think that needs to happen.
Mr. Chairman, if you directed staff to submit an application and no one came to support your proposed text amendment and explain why they were in support of your proposed text amendment, I think you can come to the conclusion that there's no support for this. If people come and speak against it, again, it's a legislative act, so the mere fact that you're applying or suggesting you change does not mean you're voting for the change.
No, I understand. Yeah.
So, since the last time was my first meeting, the moratorium was put in place to do what specifically?
The initial discussion was when the workforce housing overlay zone was, we'll say, in its infancy and originally discussed, it was targeted for certain areas in town. And somewhere between that discussion, when the language was being developed and adoption, it was put in place to be able to land anywhere in town. And as the commission had 2 applications under the workforce housing zone, there was discussion of whether the workforce housing zone, as applied in those 2 applications, merited a relook. And the commission didn't want to be under pressure of subsequent applications while they were reevaluating the aspects of a workforce housing overlay zone that applied to anywhere in town with no criteria on landing other than, say, it either made sense or didn't make sense without any evaluating criteria. And that's how the moratorium was one of the tools the commission could use so that while they contemplated this, they weren't under the pressure of a subsequent application. So I think there, in some of our brief discussions, if you were looking at putting it back, generally applied to the entire town, I'm not sure it would have enough support versus strategically allocating where it could be applied for.
But at this point, we're not going to July, July 1st, 10th?
Correct.
So we almost need another text amendment to remove it.
May, we would have it, or late April, early May, we would have it as an agenda item, a discussion on what to do with the moratorium. You're in a setting now that you're either modifying the language or repealing the language. And again, in the phase 1, phase 2 approach, you may look at this as a phase 2 item. And it may be one of the first phase 2 items you look at.
Right.
It may be more important than accessory units or home-based businesses or occupations. But I think the general discussion, at least with my experience with you, is that if you were to entertaining a workforce housing overlay zone, that it needs to be targeted to specific areas of town and not generally applied to something in a northwestern corner of town.
Right.
Yeah, I would make a motion that we at least direct staff to create this amendment to the...
Yeah, an application to amend.
And schedule a hearing in an appropriate time manner.
So then there'd be notice of that, and the thought is that then, because Derek, you said you want to hear if there was support for it. And
No, I appreciate that. I would, I guess I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit biased based on my vote on the original application. I'll just put it that way. So but I'm open to, other thoughts, obviously. But I understand what Kevin's saying and the rest of you and staff. It doesn't mean that in any way we have to approve any type of application that might come in after that. I just find it, actually, I don't find it too surprising, but Kevin, you were in the middle of the motion. Thank you, Tom.
No, I was just saying that's what I would do is make a motion. So if we're ready to do that, I would make the motion.
Again, Mr. Chairman, if you direct staff to prepare an application on your behalf for this specific language, we have to do our referrals, we have to publicize a public hearing. It's a live application before you, and you still open the hearing, receive testimony, close the hearing, and then deliberate on whether you will adopt the language.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's like,
Fine. Yeah.
Right?
I know, well,
I mean, I'm not
more
saying,
work for
I'm
you.
agreeing with it, or
No,
disagreeing, but I'm
you're
just
right.
saying, I guess, well,
It's more work for Mike.
that's what I'm looking at.
He's already got it done.
Pile it on.
Let's go.
All right. So then I would make a motion that we ask staff to prepare a text amendment for a regulation amendment, or it's an application for a amendment to our zoning regulations to incorporate the suggested wording that's in this memo, dated March 6th,
I'll second that.
2016.
Oops.
We did this last year.
Done, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Moving on to executive?
Yeah, we have to,
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
All in favor?
Who exactly moved?
Tom
Tom moved.
moved and I seconded.
And you got to say who you're going to include in it.
Okay, in the motion?
Yes.
Okay,
But
so
we're gonna include staff,
it's-
otherwise it's just us.
Including staff and the zoning commission.
Which staff?
Mike Glidden and Jamie Rabb.
Okay, because you got staff over there. That's-
Well, and this is the second, oh, yeah.
All right.